No one expected the Crown Prince of Dubai to be walking the filthy streets of East Harlem that rainy Tuesday morning. But there he was, Rahim Al Fayed, the elusive Arab billionaire known for buying islands like they were packs of gum, stepping out of a mad black Rolls-Royce and straight into destiny. She was drenched, shivering under a broken umbrella, belly round and heavy, standing behind a rusty food cart that barely passed as a business. The sign said, Tasha's Southern Bites, but there was nothing southern or biting about the soggy fried plantains she was struggling to keep warm. And yet, Rahim stopped. The billionaire, who had evaded princesses, models, and oil heiresses, walked right up to the pregnant black food vendor and stared. "I'll have whatever you got left," he said in his thick, smooth accent. Tasha blinked up at him, confused. "You sure? Ain't nothing gourmet here, sir. Just survival food." Rahim didn't blink. "Then that's exactly what I want." What happened next no one could have predicted. He ordered her card shut down. On the spot, pulled out a black credit card and whispered something in Arabic to his bodyguard, who immediately began speaking into his earpiece. Within minutes, a black SUV pulled up behind the Rolls. "Come with me," Rahim said. "Excuse me?" Tasha recoiled, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. "Sir, I don't even know you. You're pregnant, you're out here alone, that ends today." And just like that, the world changed. Inside the SUV, Tasha tried to stay calm. But the questions buzzed like bees in her brain. Who was this man? Why was he helping her? What did he want? She didn't know that Rahim had been looking for her. Not her, but the woman. The mystery woman from 7 months ago, after a night in a smoky Manhattan lounge, where champagne flowed like waterfalls and identities were blurred like secrets in the dark. He had one rule: never sleep with strangers. But that night, he broke it. And now, sitting beside him, was a woman with the same honey-brown skin, the same dark, haunting eyes, the same laugh that had haunted his dreams for months. But surely it couldn't be her. Right? Still, the timeline matched. The belly didn't lie, but if it was her, then the unborn child she carried wasn't just any child. It was the heir to a billion-dollar oil dynasty. And Rahim wasn't ready for what that meant, not even close. The Rolls-Royce purred as it climbed the winding private road to Rahim Al Fayed's Manhattan estate, a hidden fortress of glass and gold overlooking the Hudson. Tasha sat quietly, still clutching the edges of her oversized coat, too stunned to speak, too tired to resist. She didn't know this man. She didn't trust him, but deep down, something about him felt familiar. Dangerously familiar. Rahim, on the other hand, couldn't stop glancing sideways at her swollen belly. Every now and then, the baby kicked, and she'd wince or shift. And every time she did, his chest tightened just a bit more. Could it be? No. Impossible. But also, possible. He hadn't told anyone, not even his most trusted advisors, about that mysterious woman from the Manhattan lounge. The one he met after sneaking out incognito, without bodyguards, looking to escape his royal life for just one night. One night of freedom. One night that spiraled into champagne-soaked laughter, stolen kisses under velvet lights, and a blur of limbs and heat in a penthouse suite he couldn't quite recall the address of. He'd tried to find her. Hacked into club cameras. Sent investigators. Nothing. She disappeared like mist. But now, here she was? Tasha didn't notice his stare. Her mind was elsewhere. "Why are you doing this?" she finally asked, her voice small. Rahim turned to her. "Because no woman should be left on the street carrying a child. Especially, not you." That last part came out softer than he intended. But before Tasha could respond, they pulled into the estate. The gates opened automatically, revealing a sprawling compound most only saw in dreams, or on royal Instagram pages. Marble fountains, peacocks strutting like divas, and a driveway lined with Bentleys, Bugattis, and Maybachs. Tasha's eyes widened. "Is this a hotel?" Rahim chuckled darkly. "No, this is home." Inside, maids scattered to prepare a guest suite fit for a queen. Silk sheets, imported pillows, a gold-plated crib was ordered before she even stepped inside. Everything was moving fast, too fast, and then, the moment exploded. While freshening up, Tasha's purse tipped over. Rahim, passing by the door, instinctively stepped in to help. A single photograph slid out. His face froze. It was him, shirtless, sleeping in that penthouse bed. Next to her, his breath caught. She was her, the one-night stand, the one he couldn't find. And now, pregnant, with his child, he stormed out of the room like he'd seen a ghost. Heart pounding, thoughts spiraling. If the royal family found out, this could become an international scandal. A black American food vendor? Carrying the heir to the throne of Dubai? That was more than controversial, it was forbidden. But it was too late. She was already inside the palace. And worse, Raheem was starting to remember just how much he had felt for her that night. It wasn't just passion, it was something dangerous, something permanent. Raheem didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in his gold-trimmed study, the walls echoing with the tick of an antique clock that felt more like a countdown to disaster. Every so often, he'd glance at the photo still trembling in his hand, him and Tasha in that penthouse suite, tangled in satin sheets, smiles soft, wild, and intimate. Proof of a night the royal family must never know happened. Across the hall, Tasha slept like a woman who hadn't rested in months. She'd been abandoned, betrayed, used, and now, rescued by a man who made zero sense. But the next morning, everything changed. Fast, Raheem had summoned his private doctor. DNA tests were taken, silently, discreetly. Neither he nor Tasha spoke about it, but the air between them was heavy with truth neither was ready to face. Then came the news. The results, 99.9% match. The child was his, and just like that, the scandal was born. Raheem's world exploded behind palace doors. His top advisor, Zayed, stormed into the mansion with eyes like fire. "This cannot be," he hissed. "A black American woman? A food vendor? With your heir? She's not just some woman," Raheem snapped. "She's the mother of my child." "No, she is a mistake," Zayed barked. "You know what the council will do. You know what your mother will say." The Queen Mother, who ruled Dubai's royal court with a velvet iron fist, was already calling. A private jet had been dispatched to New York. Raheem knew what that meant. Exile, or worse, erasure. Royal bloodlines were sacred. Dilution was treason. Tasha? She wasn't just poor, she was unacceptable. But here's where things got messier. Because Tasha? She heard everything. She had come downstairs to thank Raheem. To tell him she felt safe for the first time in forever. That her baby kicked differently when he was near. That she was starting to believe in miracles again. Instead, she heard her unborn child being labeled a mistake. And something inside her snapped. That night, she vanished. No guards saw her leave. Cameras mysteriously went offline. Gone. Raheem tore the city apart looking for her. But what he didn't know was that she hadn't gone far. And she wasn't alone. Because there was someone else watching. A shadow from Raheem's past, a jealous fiancé he'd left behind. She'd been spying, and now she had all the proof she needed to destroy him. Somewhere deep in Brooklyn, in a crumbling apartment above a 24-hour laundromat, Tasha sat on a borrowed mattress, wiping tears from her face. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but fury. She had been played. Again, the man who had swept her off the streets like a knight in diamond armor, had stood by while his court called her child a mistake. He hadn't fought for her. He hadn't stopped them, so she left. But she didn't leave unnoticed. Lurking in the shadows of Raheem's world was a woman far more dangerous than the press, the council, or the Queen Mother herself, Princess Layla bint Hamza, Raheem's ex-fiancée, a royal jewel discarded quietly 6 months ago, for reasons Raheem had never explained. What no one knew was that Layla had been following Raheem's every move ever since. Hacking into his private cameras, intercepting calls, bribing staff. And when she saw Tasha's photo on Raheem's desk, the same one from that forgotten night, everything snapped into place. She had been traded, rejected. For her? A broke, black, unwed American food vendor? No, she wouldn't just let that slide. She would ruin them both. The next morning, the world awoke to chaos. Photos of Tasha and Raheem leaked to international press, embracing, laughing, and one incriminating image of Raheem kissing her pregnant belly at night by the fountain. The headlines exploded. Arab billionaire impregnates American street vendor. Royal scandal rocks Dubai. Is this woman carrying the next king? From plantains to palace, the billion-dollar baby mama drama. The Queen Mother was furious. Calls were made, assets were frozen. The palace demanded Raheem return alone. But Raheem? He was done running. He held a live press conference that night from the estate. Flanked by gold pillars and royal guards, he stood before the world, and dropped a bomb. "I will not deny my child. I will not deny the woman who carries them. She is not a mistake. She is my choice, and if my kingdom cannot accept her, then I will build us another one." Mic dropped. Tasha, watching on a tiny TV in the laundromat, broke down. For the first time, she believed him. But just as she packed to return to him, a black van screeched to a halt outside. Masked men jumped out. She screamed. They weren't reporters. They weren't fans. They were sent by Layla. 1 week later, Rahim received a package at his estate. Inside it was a burner phone and a video. Tasha, tied to a chair, belly round, eyes swollen, and Lale's voice, smooth and icy. If you want your heir back, Rahim, abdicate the throne. Or bury them both. The video looped again and again in Rahim's trembling hands. Tasha, bound, terrified, and still pregnant, was being held hostage by the woman he once thought he'd marry. A woman now drunk on revenge, wielding his greatest vulnerability like a weapon, his unborn child. Lale's voice in the video was clear. You have 72 hours. Abdicate the throne, publicly, renounce all royal claims and wealth, or I send you your child in pieces. The palace went into meltdown. Rahim's advisors begged him to stay calm. We'll find her, they said. We'll negotiate, pay whatever it takes. But Rahim wasn't going to negotiate. He was going to burn everything down. He called an emergency press conference. The world gathered, again, to hear from the scandal-ridden billionaire prince. But this time, Rahim stood on that stage not as a royal, not as a billionaire, but as a man willing to risk it all. My name is Rahim al-Fayed, he began. I was born into royalty, groomed to rule a kingdom I did not choose. But today, I choose something else. He paused. I choose love. I choose my unborn child. I choose the woman your rules said I couldn't have. Gasps echoed. He reached into his blazer, pulled out a rolled scroll, and held it up. This is my formal abdication. Effective immediately. He signed it, live, on camera. In one stroke of ink, Rahim gave up a $60 billion inheritance, royal immunity, control of oil empires, and every luxury he'd ever known. He walked off stage, no guards, no limo. Only vengeance in his eyes. Meanwhile, in an abandoned Turkish bathhouse on the outskirts of New Jersey, Tasha clutched her belly as another contraction ripped through her body. She's early, one of Lale's hired goons muttered, pacing. You better pray he comes through, Layla hissed. Because if she delivers before the deadline and I don't hear from him, that baby won't live past its first cry. Tasha, soaked in sweat and pain, locked eyes with her captor. You can chain my body, she whispered, but my baby's already royalty. And no crown of yours will ever change that. She was about to scream again, when the wall exploded. A SWAT team stormed the hideout. Bullets flew. Layla shrieked, firing wildly, but Rahim burst through the smoke in full riot gear, rage burning in his chest. He tackled the man guarding Tasha, threw off his helmet, and wrapped her trembling body in his arms. I found you, he whispered. I will always find you. But before they could escape, bang! A gunshot rang out. Tasha screamed. Rahim staggered back, blood blooming on his shirt. Layla was standing across the room, hand trembling, eyes wild. I told you, she cried, she was never supposed to win. Rahim fell to his knees. Everything went black, silence, deafening, except for Tasha's cries echoing through the smoke-filled room. Rahim lay motionless, blood staining the marble beneath him. One hand reached out toward her, the other pressed weakly against his stomach. His lips moved, but no words came. Only the sound of his breathing, shallow, desperate. Rahim, Tasha screamed, crawling toward him, belly heavy, pain racking her spine. Her water broke on the spot. The trauma had triggered early labor. Layla, still holding the smoking gun, stood frozen. Her power, her revenge, her plan, crumbled in seconds. The SWAT team dragged her down, wrestled the weapon from her hand, her screams swallowed by sirens as she was cuffed and yanked from the building like yesterday's trash. But none of it mattered to Tasha. The man who had rescued her had just died for her. Or so she thought. She was rushed to the hospital, slipping in and out of consciousness. Her screams filled the delivery room. Nurses shouted for a crash cart. The baby's heartbeat dropped, but in the chaos, a miracle clawed its way through. At 3:44 a.m., Tasha gave birth to a baby girl. Tiny, fierce, screaming like a queen just crowned. They named her Amira, Arabic for princess. 2 days later, the hospital door creaked open. Tasha, weak but awake, looked up and gasped. Rahim, bruised, bandaged, standing, barely. He limped toward her with a bouquet of daisies, the same kind she used to sell on her lunch truck. I took a bullet, he whispered, voice hoarse. But I couldn't leave you. Not when you brought our legacy into this world. Tasha broke. She sobbed into his chest, both of them wrapped around the tiny life between them. 1 year later, in a villa overlooking the Amalfi Coast, former Prince Rahim Al Fayed hosts charity galas for single mothers across the globe. The oil empire? Gone. The crown? Forgotten. but in his arms every night is the only treasure he'll ever need, his daughter, and the woman the world called a mistake. As for Layla, she sits behind bars in a private Saudi prison. Her name stripped from all royal records. The story made global headlines. Documentaries were filmed, books were written, but nothing captured the truth like Tasha's best-selling memoir, Street Queen. How I Got Pregnant by a Billionaire Prince, and Watched Him Bleed for Me. And just like that, the food vendor who once slept on concrete gave birth not only to a baby, but to a legacy that broke a kingdom and built a dynasty. If you enjoyed the story, do well to leave a comment and subscribe to our channel for more shocking, dramatic love stories like this one.